Hey everyone, welcome! If you're involved in any kind of electrical work in Belize, whether you're an electrician, a developer, or an engineer, this is a big heads up for you. We're about to demystify the brand new proposed 2026 electrical regulations from the Public Utilities Commission.
You'll hear me call them the PUC. They've rolled out this proposal. The whole idea is to formalize how electrical designs get reviewed and inspected. We're going to walk through their official guide step by step so you know exactly what's on the horizon and, why it matters.
All right, here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll touch on why we need new rules. Then we'll get into the new two-certificate system, figure out who's responsible for what, talk about the nitty-gritty, timelines, fees, and all that, and wrap up with how you can get involved and have your say. Okay, let's dive right in. Section 1. Why bother with new rules? And look, the first thing to know is this isn't about creating a bunch of new bureaucracy. It's really about taking the best practices that good electricians are already following and just making them official, putting them into law to make things safer and more reliable for everyone.
And honestly, this quote from the PUC's notice really says it all, doesn't it? The whole mission, the heart of it, is to strengthen safety and reliability measures and protect the public. It's all about preventing accidents, injuries, and property damage from bad electrical jobs. Simple as that.
And when they say comprehensive, they mean it. These regulations really cover the whole shebang. We're talking electrical design specs, how to apply, the review process, who needs a license, and of course, what happens if you don't follow the rules. It's a full-on legal framework from start to finish.
All right, that brings us to the real core of this whole new system, what they're calling the two-certificate process. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like building a house, right? You would never start digging a foundation without approved blueprints. And you can't move in until you pass a final inspection. It's that exact same logic, just for electrical work.
So, that first certificate is the Design Compliance Certificate. This is basically your green light from the PUC. It's the piece of paper that says, yep, your electrical design meets all the safety and technical rules. And this is crucial. You can't start any construction, not a single wire, until you have this in hand.
Then, after all the work is finished, you need the second piece of the puzzle, the Inspection Compliance Certificate. This is the final sign-off. The PUC sends someone out to make sure what you actually built matches the design they approved, and they check that it's safe to be hooked up to the grid. The bottom line is, no certificate, no power. It's that simple. So this lays it out perfectly. Look at the flow here. 1, you submit your design. 2, you get that design certificate. Then, and only then, do you move to step 3 and do the installation. After that, you request your inspection, get your second certificate, and finally, step 6, you can flip the switch. The sequence here is absolutely everything. Okay, so who's actually involved in all this? Who does what? It's really important to understand the different roles to make sure everything goes smoothly. Let's break down the key players.
You've basically got two main roles here. On one side, you have the design certifier. Think of them as the planner. They're the one who draws up the electrical design and certifies it for the PUC. On the other side, you've got the installation contractor. They're the builder, the one who actually does the work based on that approved plan. And here's a key point. It's totally possible for the same licensed person to be both the certifier and the contractor.
All right, let's get down to the fine print. This is the stuff every professional is going to want to know, right? We're talking timelines, what this is going to cost, and what happens if you step out of line. So how long does it take the PUC to review a design? Well, it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. It all depends on the size of the job. As you can see, for smaller projects, say up to 24 kVA, they're aiming for a turnaround of 5 working days or less. For bigger projects, it scales up, giving them more time for those more complex reviews.
And what about the fees? Same idea here. It's a tiered system. For those smaller designs, you're looking at a $50 fee. Mid-size projects, up to 225 kVA, are $150. And for the really big ones, over 225 kVA, the submission fee is $250 Belize dollars.
Okay, let's talk about the other side of the coin, the penalties. If you commit an offense under these new rules, the maximum fine you could face is a pretty hefty 5,000 Belize dollars.
And it doesn't necessarily stop there. For some violations, and this is a big one, like powering up a system without that final inspection certificate, it's considered a continuing offense. What does that mean? It means for every single day that system stays illegally energized, you could be hit with an additional penalty of $100. As you can imagine, that can add up really, really fast.
Now, this next part is super important, especially for all you pros out there.
Remember, these are proposed regulations. They're not set in stone yet. That means the PUC actually wants to hear from you, the people who will be dealing with this stuff day in and day out.
So here's how you get involved. You need to get your written comments in by 5 p.m. on Friday, April 10th, 2026. Just shoot an email over to info@PUCBusy. Seriously, this is your chance to have a real impact and help shape what the final rules will look like.
So when you boil it all down, that's what this is about, creating a safer, more reliable electrical system for everybody in Belize. And that kind of leaves us with the big question, right? How will these new standards really shape that safer electrical future for the country? It's something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.